All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Nice to have you here. I'm Dr. Zimmermann, if we haven't met. And you've made it into Fasting Space Live, a space where we can connect and explore a fasting practice together while, if you're inclined, while fasting. I hope you're doing really well. Holiday week here, if you're into that sort of thing. And I thought in this space, hopefully we can just relax a little bit. Such a balance, like, some things about a holiday week, if you get a day or two off from work, maybe kids are off school, some things is kind of like, okay, take a break, but also it can be super busy. So many things to do, and that, of course, can be any week, but this session want to focus a little bit on how do we try to create a little space in our lives to relax, reset, hopefully get through the other side of the week just feeling really good about it, both that we enjoyed ourselves, had a great week, and then, can this be a health check-in too? Like, can we be moving in the healthy direction throughout the week? So often we think of that as like an either or. Like, either I'm going to have fun and enjoy myself, or I'm going to focus on my health and really, dial in and do the hard work. And I would like to push back on that a little bit today and say, can we do both? What would it look like to do both for you? Some of that parallel is about, like, okay, doing versus being. I think a lot about, like, fasting is, from one perspective, it's like not doing anything, like what is fasting? It's nothing. You're not eating. It's just open, empty space. Okay, then you say it's also something you do. Like, from a different perspective, you say, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm fasting. So it just depends on how you look at it. Last week's session, the one on autophagy, that was much more doing focused. That was like, we're doing this practice like for these specific reasons, and like all these processes to know about in the body. This session I thought would be much more on the being side. If you have open space, that's definitely on the being, not so much doing, more being. And when we're in a busy season, when always so much to do, I think oftentimes that busyness, it can mirror the state in our life where it's like we're always eating. And so can fasting be a practice that helps us push back against that? Can we embrace a concept of openness, thoughtfulness, contentment? Fasting super about contentment to me. If we're finding a space of contentment in one area of our life, can we use that as a map and a physical practice? I'm not eating food. To me, I say, can we help it to be a mental health practice also? Can we be using this practice to improve our well-being? Let me know if you're here in the chat. Say hi if you're inclined. I hope you're doing well today. create some physical space. That's the physical side of it. Creating that physical space. In that physical space in the body, a lot of things are happening behind the scenes. We got to that in that space last week on autophagy. It's not that nothing is happening in the body. The body is running all sorts of calming, thoughtful pathways, and that can be a way to help us think about it. Last week we got to this space where we said, if we don't appreciate everything that's happening in the body, all the work the body's doing to help us cleanse and repair, then we feel like, a fasting space is like cutting us back, like we're restricting ourselves in some way. When we look at that space as a gift of giving the body an openness, a chance to reset, that can be a way to help find gratitude and then contentment in our life, because you realize, this is so positive. I'm doing this beautiful thing for the body. Then you can just kind of sit in that space. Good morning, Glasgow. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for checking in. Are we allowed to exercise during our fast? Let's chat about that for a bit. Exercise and fasting, a very interesting thing, very good thing to talk about. I actually recorded a podcast this week. First time I've ever been on a podcast, and it was a running podcast, and then the interview was specifically about the interface of running and fasting and how people can use a fasting practice, perhaps to enhance running, perhaps to increase overall fitness and then lose weight. And so check out the channel. Maybe it'll be a week or two before I'm able to post that, but I'll get a copy of it and then I can provide a link to the actual podcast. So there will be a deep dive. We talked for like an hour about it. Yes, I mean, the short answer is yes. Also, simplefasting.com. By next week, I need to have it set up where I can share my screen again. But I have an article on there. If you go simplefasting.com articles, there's an article. I have it titled Sports Performance, which maybe I need to change or make a separate article. There's definitely an area, of fasting on the really high end. Like a lot of high-end athletes train fasted. And physiologically, there's a lot of reasons for that. Like you think like some elite athlete, some NFL player, you're some NBA player, you're playing all this time. You're on the field, like sometimes you get off, you could get a sports drink, but our carbohydrate reserve, the glycogen, the blood sugar, there's not so much of it in the body as there is of body fat. And especially the longer you try to exercise, you can deplete that. And then the body will switch over to try to run off the body fat. But that is a system that needs to be trained. And if you're not trained to do that, then you kind of hit the wall, right? But if you're trained to burn off the body fat, there's almost, within the short term, there's almost an infinite supply of it, Body fat, even for a lean individual, there's just so much energy in it that if you're trained to do it for an endurance activity, can really help improve athletic performance. Okay, so this is like on the, elite end, people trying to train that so that they don't, hit the wall and die at that critical moment that they're trained on both of those energy systems. What about for just a regular, person like us, who is not an elite athlete? Here's the way I usually say it. you have to walk before you can run, right? And that's true for everything with exercising. If you're going to start exercising in general, you got to ease into it. Let the body adjust and build up its strength and tolerance over time. Often I talk about fasting that way in and of itself, that we want to ease into that slowly and thoughtfully so that the body can understand, oh yeah, this is what we're doing. Here's how we can adjust and adapt to that. And then you get stronger over time. So both fasting and exercise have that. And then of course, if you do both of these things together, then it's like, it's more intense to do. So walk before you can run with exercise. With fasting, I add in, also you have to be able to sit before you can walk. So if you need to be able to tolerate fasting without exercise, certainly, before you would try to add in exercise to it. So I usually tell people, if you're new to fasting, okay, just get in that fasting space, sit before you can walk. Just, can you pass the time without exercising and be comfortable? And then from that place, then yes, absolutely. Fasting, exercise, the sky is the limit. Elite athletes training at absolute maximum intensity, fasting. Okay, but you can't start at that place. You got to start where is your body at and work your way up. So I always tell people something walking level is the place you want to start. You handle the fasting just fine. Great. Now, add the walking level. What if, people in so many different, situations. The situation you want to avoid is, are you taking medications that can lower blood pressure or blood sugar? If you're taking things like that, or if you have unstable blood sugar and all of a sudden you start exercising, okay, fasting can be a powerful tool to lower blood pressure and blood sugar. Exercise, same things. Physiologically in the body, when you exercise, the muscle cells have these little trap doors that open up. Blood sugar can just pour right into the muscle, independent of any insulin, and that's how you power the muscle, burn up blood sugar. But yeah, you can drop that quick. So how can that manifest? Just feeling lightheaded or dizzy. So that's why you want to ease into it. The very worst case scenario, which I'm closing in on a decade of counseling people about fasting. I've never had anybody. I'm always very thoughtful of telling people, you gotta go slow, you gotta ease into it. This is how you keep everything safe. The worst case scenario you can imagine, though, right? Somebody starts feeling dizzy and lightheaded and doesn't stop, or they go too hard too fast. Could you pass out? Could you fall? Could you hurt yourself? I never want anyone to, of course, to run into any trouble. So I hope this is making sense. Can you ease into it? But yeah, if you're feeling good walking, you can do any type of exercise fasting. You can run, you can bike, you can swim, you can do all these things if you ease yourself into it. The first time I was learning about this, and then I was learning, people exercise while they're fasting. I thought, no way, because I've always been a runner and I bike, and I thought, no way, because my routine, I always get up extra early. I have to get back. This is a while ago now. I would get up, I would eat a banana, I would drink orange juice, kind of load more carbs in the system. And then I would give it 20 minutes to kind of let that stuff go. And then I'd be, extra carb loaded. Then I would get after it. And then I was into the whole thing because, so many companies, they want to market you stuff, and they tell you all these things like, oh, you have to drink this thing and take this supplement and do this, and you need these electrolytes and this stuff. And I always thought in my mind, this doesn't totally make sense because, I think about, the history of people like hunter-gatherers and people walking across the planet, how there were no sports drinks, what were they doing? No convenience store, they're gathering things. They might, I just don't know what it was like, but I was like, I always thought that I should be able to like exercise without all this stuff. But then it's just the culture and you're used to it. So the first times that I tried to do it, it was hard. I mean, I tried to get on my bike to ride my bike, for exercise. And I'm like, oh man, like fasting. So I was like just going so slow, but I really worked at it. And by 6 weeks, it took me like 6 weeks till I felt like I reached the point where I could exercise harder fasting than eating. And that's pretty much the space I'm in now. If I'm doing most types of exercise, I much prefer to do it fasting now. Because like, think about the times when you would be like least likely to want to exercise. Here we are in the holidays, right? You just eat some big holiday meal, like you are not gonna go like exercise, right? You wanna go sit on the couch. And you don't wanna lug around this whole food. It just doesn't feel comfortable, right? So think of the very opposite end of that. Like when are you the most physically primed and ready to like move your body? Like when things are like cleared out, or like it's empty, like it's actually lighter, it's actually easier to move your body through space. And so absolutely, like I run a fair amount of half marathons and I fast all the time for a half marathon now. I did my first marathon just a month or two ago. And that is, I did eat, and like I'm no expert at running marathons, but I'm like, you know what? It's so much energy. And everybody says, okay, you need the nutrition plan. I was like, the first time, I'm glad I did. So I got up early. I ate oatmeal before my marathon, gave that some time, like 2 hours before the start of the race. And then I did do kind of a standard nutrition thing for the marathon, which I think was good. I'm not saying like everything has to be fasting. I'm not even saying it's best. Like I don't know, but if you want to have an interesting experience, watch the World Championship half marathon race. It's only like 40 minutes, and these people, I don't know what all their pre-race nutrition is like, but they're not eating during the thing. They're not sucking down energy gels. They're just running. Anyway, so that's been my experience. I've experienced that, going from being, not able to do much at all without eating to training up over a period of time the ability to exercise fasting. So just, if you have any specific questions for your individual situation, I always tell people, talk about your medical situation with your medical team, of course, and ease into things. Happy to hear. Let me know if you have other questions about that. But yeah, it's really a good thing to think about and explore. I think it's such a healthy state. In the article I referenced on the website, I go into a lot of benefits there. There's extra hormonal benefits in that space, because like that's the most intense situation you can put as far as burning body fat, right? No food energy coming in, all the hormones lining up in the body to say like, hey, it's time to burn body fat. And then you start exercising and putting this metabolic load on the body. That's like the most intense that you can dial it up. And so it's good. Hello. This mindset is what I believe will be the game changer. Controlling stress will pave the way for weight loss as an additional benefit. Yeah, I just personally believe this is the way to do it. I think most people who are trying to lose weight, the whole process, the experience, it is such a frustration for so many people, and we think of it as like so much to do, and it's like another stressful thing on top of everything else. And what I've found over the years of working with people is it's really the opposite. Like we have to like totally paradigm switch this thinking. If we're adding stressful things on top of all the stress that we already have in our life, it's really hard to stick with that. I mean, making changes of any kind is hard. Making changes to how we eat is one of the very hardest things because it's just so ingrained in everything we do. And then, something like smoking cigarettes, for example, like trying to get off of a nicotine habit. The thing about that is like, that's extremely difficult. But you don't actually have to do it, you don't have to smoke the cigarette, and you can just get rid of it, and out of sight, out of mind. And if there's one thing that quitting smoking has going for it is, okay, you don't have to do it, but like changing how we eat, like you still have to do it. It's not, you can't, fast forever, it's like we still need nutrition, we have to be eating. So it's like, here's some people talk about like a food addiction. Like if you think of it in that mindset, like, oh, here is something that like I'm struggling with and I need to change it, but I like still have to do it. So it's always right there. And that's what, can really make it a challenge. And so you need a practice, or it's at least exceptionally beneficial to find a practice that can help you reduce your stress. If a practice is helping you reduce stress, and that's the primary thing that you're doing, and it's actually making your life easier to manage, like, then that is something that is easier to stick with, for many people at least. So that's where I'm trying to go with the whole fasting practice, because there's kind of two sides to it. Like there's like the physical and then the emotional, mental sort of side. On the physical side of it, there's less to do, less shopping, less cooking, less dishes. Like it's just open space. Like that simplifies things in and of itself. And so it's not like, I mean, you can see from my discussion, right? I'm a big exerciser. I'm a huge advocate of people exercising, but it's not everybody's thing. And it's like, okay, adding the gym membership is like the classic weight loss path. Okay, that's, you got to drive to the gym, get to the gym, change the clothes, do the stuff, come back, shower. Like it can add, a lot to do. And then that can be stressful if it's not your routine. Okay, so something that is the opposite of that is cutting back, can just help to simplify. That's like on the physical side. And then the emotional side is like, okay, if we're stressed, we have these, whatever, going on in our life. There's a few different practices. So fasting I put as one, meditation, breathing, exercises, things like this that help us find some openness, right? I don't know, tell me, everybody can experience stress in a little bit of a different way. But one way that I've experienced it is almost like a cycle. It's like this process that is spinning around and around. It's kind of like an anxiety loop, like when you're feeling anxious. It's like you're thinking this thought and then it turns into this thought and it loops back around and you're kind of in this cycle. So a fasting space can be part of something that can help break out of that. We're always so busy, we're always doing. Fasting help open up some space that's just like open. Put into that, even in very small amounts, like a breathing practice is something that can be really beneficial to help, break that cycle with it. And can be independent. Like you don't have to be doing fasting, of course, to practice anything else. There's two main breathing patterns that I found like therapeutically, and if you look into, counseling literature, These are two of the most common. The first one is box breathing. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Like, just you picture like a little box, and then you breathe like as you're tracing it out. As you're breathing up in, it's like heading up, and then you hold, and then you breathe out and you hold. So you kind of pick your number. There's no number of how long. People say, well, you try to get to, 5 or 6 or something. Counting 6 seconds. Like when I start, if I'm feeling really anxious personally, really stressed, like during a day, I might take a minute and just do some of this box. But see if you feel this way. Like if I'm really amped up and anxious, I will, I'll find it hard to do. Maybe I only do 1 second because like your breathing gets shallower. You're kind of, sometimes that shallow breathing in and of itself, it's kind of constricting. Our lungs kind of constrict down over if we aren't taking a big deep breath. So even just a big deep breath in and of itself help expand the lungs. That can help bring openness. But then the process, I'm counting 1, 1, 1, 1, okay? And if you get in a rhythm of that, help slow things down, and then you can start counting it longer. Like try to get to 3, slow it down. So that sort of process, really helpful to add in. When you're getting in that sort of mindset, focusing on the stress first, if I'm talking with someone and they're super stressed out, with all these sort of things, I might start with something like that, a box breathing, even before I would talk, about fasting, other weight loss stuff, like getting the stress in the right place, manageable, taking control of it, finding ways to cope and process with it is the core part of the process, I think. I have a video in the Core Fasting series, Never Stress About Losing Weight Again. I love that one. When we're stressed out, our body's making stress hormones like cortisol. And high cortisol levels associated with weight gain. So if we're driving a stress process, this is why so many people gain weight during, stressful situations. Difficult things happen, and it's very common to gain weight. Most of the time, weight issues driven by hormones of some kind. Hormones are controllers. They determine how energy is processed and handled in the body. So for so long, we focused only on calories, but calories only telling half the story, hormones determining how those calories are processed. So if we're always stressed out, our cortisol level is always high, we're always sending signals to the body to store body fat. Cortisol, I think, also hitting the liver, telling liver to make more blood sugar. So that stress level can drive both weight and blood sugar problems. So find the ways to reduce and effectively cope with stress. If you haven't seen it, check out that video, Never Stress About Losing Weight Again. That's the mindset we want to get to. I finished finally. Let's see if I think I have it set up. I can flip over now to my mini-me without killing the music. I finally finished my little time-lapse video from Thanksgiving. Posted that this week. Sun is setting on snacking. We got to head by Lake Michigan over Thanksgiving. So that one. Sun setting on snacking. Evening is like a big time for snacking. Evening is the time it's really the least helpful time to eat. You know, the body is trying to go into kind of shutdown mode for the night, kind of get everything put away, head into rest and repair. And usually a lot of food that's coming in the evening, the body's like, oh, don't really need this now. Like we'll just set that aside for tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and we don't need it then either. And so then that's how the cycle kind of gets going. So I hope this video can help to kind of break that cycle. Thinking of sun going down is like a real physical reminder from nature, you know, like, hey, it's time to wrap down the eating for the day, clear out this space. Snacking in the evening is the interface to me between a fasting-based weight loss paradigm and like the standard sort of medical system. Like if you go to a standard, you know, trained nutritionist or dietitian, a lot of people, they haven't caught the idea of fasting exactly. I did the video the other week on this Biggest Loser effect, you know, that study, I think 2012. It was already in the society, but that really pushed it out there that okay, cutting calories way back causes our metabolism to slow down. And then the main point of that whole thing was people are missing the fact that when you actually are fasting, that the metabolism resets. The fasting is actually the reset. So even though if some standard perspective does not appreciate fasting, they'll still agree that we shouldn't snack in the evening, right? So a lot of, you know, nutritionists will say that. They'll say, hey, look, we got to clear out the snacks. This is not a good space. Well, what is clearing out snacking but the start of fasting, right? If you're normally done eating by 7 and you're going to bed at 10, like, okay, there's 3 hours there. And if people having a bedtime snack, you know, and it's like, well, if you didn't have that and you were done at 7, you know, you just grabbed yourself 3 extra hours of fasting space. And part of it is the calories, right? But then part of it is the actual time spent in the fasting space, because the longer you are in that state, the stronger the signal is sent to the body. Hey, it's been a while since the food has been coming in here. Let's really start ramping up the body fat excess, and we're going to need to be running off that. So I hope that is a helpful, thoughtful video for you. Here we are, holiday week. Just try to balance it out. This is the main thing I tell people about holidays. Use a fasting practice, use healthy eating, use exercise, all these good things. Use it to balance things out over the week. Sometimes I think about this phrase, have your cake and eat it too. People say you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you have the cake and then you eat it, then it's gone. Well, true. I think we can boil down the idea of that phrase into like, you can't like enjoy yourself or be healthy. And this is what I think we really need to push back on. Can we enjoy ourselves and be healthy throughout a week and balance it. Eating is not unhealthy. I want people, here we are on a fasting channel, fasting about, okay, not eating, right? But really, to me, it's just about healthy eating, right? And finding a balance of the appropriate amount of eating. And I want people to have a healthy, positive, joyful relationship with food. Food is how we connect with people. It's most of our most enjoyable days and experiences involve food in some way. And we have to have that. That's part of like the good mental health, right? That's how we keep our stress in a manageable place, feel positive about everything. We need healthy, solid nutrition. So when I was making simple fasting, I thought once about just calling it normal eating, because it's normal in my view just to have periods of fasting. Can you balance that out over the week if you're having a really food heavy period of time? Okay, can you balance that out? Maybe earlier in the week, and then over the course of the week, maybe you end up at a better place by the end of it. That's kind of like this idea, have your cake and eat it too. Have the fasting space, the health processes that serve you. Have the enjoyable eating and the beautiful time that you enjoy. And then you've got the best of both worlds. All right. That's about the thoughts that I have for today. Hope you enjoyed the music. I hope that this can be a good check-in for you. I hope you have a beautiful week, whatever you're up to this week. I hope that you're able to move through it in a way that balances these things, moving toward health and wholeness, reducing stress, finding a place of peace and contentment, and enjoying it along the way. Thanks for being with me here today. Wish you the very best. I will see you here next week as we're really diving into end of the year wrap up and moving forward into 2025. And look forward to keeping this going with you. See you soon.